So I'm sure you're all aware at this point, Sony just canceled two more games, and this time one was from Studio Ben, the creators of Days Gone. This was actually perfect timing for me to have an excuse to play and to talk about Days Gone in general because, at least in my opinion, Days Gone is the best open world zombies game for me that I have personally ever played. I have a few close contenders like Dying Light and Dead Island, but nothing really gave me that zombies itch like this game did back in 2020 when I bought it. Also, yes, I will be calling them zombies. I don't know what the hell infecteds are. I think that's what they technically call them, but I don't give a shit. You probably also know that Sony rejected a Days Gone sequel pitch, and right around this time is when all these live service dog shit ass garbage games started being greenlit. And it just so happens that basically every live service game from PlayStation other than Helldivers 2 has been just a flop without question. I don't even have to go over the full story at this point, but to me, that signals a small possibility that somewhere in the future, maybe on the PS6, when that releases, we will finally get more news on if Days Gone 2 is happening. And so I wanted to discuss what they can take away from what they'll have learned from Days Gone 1. You know, the really good features they had going, like the hordes and bike gameplay, and other things to avoid, like an awful launch technically with loads of bugs and glitches. However, this is mostly going to be a glaze of Days Gone 1 and not a critique of it. If you do want a critique style video, I will link some in the description from Luke Stevens I've watched and Jack Sater. These are my two go-to guys for video game reviews, and I think you'll find it informative as well. But anyways, let's begin. So the first thing I really love about Days Gone, and it honestly doesn't get talked about enough, is the bike customization and the upgrades available to it. So unfortunately, since it's 2025 and we live in a live service era, we have to be aware that customization back in 2019 is way different than it is today. Not saying it was amazing back then or anything. I mean, we had loot boxes, which was so bad, it's been outlawed as gambling and exploiting young children in some jurisdictions. But that type of monetization was, for the most part, kept to online multiplayer games. Nowadays, there's no telling what might be added to even single player games. And so to expect the bike skins and little trinkets and emblems you add to Deacon's bike to be improved or expanded on without any sort of like expansion for a profit in some way would be delusional, especially since Sony's only concern is the bottom line. But let's go under the assumption that paints and decals will always have an in-game way to be unlocked. Then what I'd like to see improved on in this system is really cool skins and paints that can be unlocked through certain tiers of challenges you can do in the open world, like completing a horde with limited equipment or in a limited time period. There are ways to get players engaged with stuff like bounties and rescue missions without it feeling like a tedious grind. And although I really like the camp system across all sections of the map, I feel like it's largely generic and many players missed out on some really cool bike customization options and even some of the higher level weapons as well. I think this is a slam dunk in terms of execution for Days Gone 2 because it's already really fun to mess around with the bike. Just doing like the turbo drifts and riding around with it, to me it feels like riding around in Cyberpunk and Night City with no real purpose. The bike feels great once it's fully upgraded. Each upgrade feels impactful, and the more time you spend with it, the more you'll come to appreciate this unique aspect of Days Gone. Okay, so the next thing I had a lot of fun with at the time were the skills, which consist of melee upgrades, ranged upgrades, and upgrades to your survival, which is my favorite branch, if you will. Now, I must say, after playing a lot of MMO games since about maybe mid-2020, going back to a very simplified and streamlined skills/progression system was both a bit jarring and liberating at the same time. Let me explain. Since in Days Gone, you have 15 skills per branch and a total of 45 to choose from, it feels more like old school games where you pick a specific playstyle rather than getting everything, and the playstyle is much more freeform than having to just choose one role, like say a melee focused build where you increase durability and stamina consumption of melee attacks, or a ranged and focus dependent playstyle where you keep your distance and pick off zombies as they chase you. And I know you can actually get all the skills in a single playthrough, at least as far as I can remember you can do that, but that's extremely impractical and rare since the last third of the game is a real trudge to get through. That's actually another minor thing I would criticize if this was a critique, but I don't think 90% of players will get all the skills on their first playthrough. I mean, many players likely just miss many of the camp jobs and therefore miss out on a lot of XP for leveling, while also just doing the mandatory Nero checkpoints or the ones that were on their destination path to their next main mission. So when they did get those extra Nero injectors or skill points, it was a serious decision as to where that point goes. And that's something that's been largely eradicated from RPG or open world adventure games. Take Cyberpunk 2077 for instance. You have 60 skill points by the end of leveling, including the Phantom Liberty DLC, which is more than enough to choose any playstyle you want. And even then, say you want to switch from engineering and assault to net running and stealth, you can refund all your points just once, but your attribute points are infinite amount of times you can refund them. This means past a certain point, the game has zero difficulty, like actually zero difficulty. A toddler could play with a fully kitted out V on the hardest difficulty and get by. In Days Gone, when you make a choice to upgrade something, it has a heavy impact on your gameplay for about the first 25 to 30 hours of the game. After that, it is pretty trivial, just like it is in basically every game, but it's never just dumb easy by any means. In the sense of scarcity for just everything, resources and crafting, but also skills as well, is what makes it very impactful and a tough decision to make rather than it just being freeform like other games. And look, I'm not expecting it to feel like an RPG with different classes and races, and so you can play like 10 different ways, but I do think the basic and straightforward approach of the skill system is a big appeal for maybe older gamers or players that like the way progression used to be handled in video games. But before it just starts to sound like an ad or a paid promotion and it just seems like I'm blind to Days Gone's issues, I'm not. And I will be going over a few things that annoyed me or that I didn't like personally. I'm actually glad that I'm doing it this way because all those years ago when I played and platinumed Days Gone on the PS4 Pro, I didn't experience not one bug. Yeah, you heard me, that's right, not a single bug or no issues at all. I saw all the reviews and videos, and at the time I thought the reviewers were just slightly exaggerating it, or they had some busted PS4 because in 180 hours, I had almost no issue to speak of. No bugs, no glitches, no clipping through the map, and no crashes at all. I think maybe I had one crash, but that was it. That is until now, and when I tell you, I see the vision. When I tell you, I understand it now. Because I have about 10 bugs in, let's say, maybe 12 to 15 hours of my gameplay. For me, that's just too many. That's just far too many. At most, I expect a crash here or there, and maybe some weird AI ragdoll physics, but it went far and beyond that. And although bugs don't really annoy me so much to the point where I'll drop a game, I can see why experiencing them at such a frequency like this, I can see why that would turn some players off to the game entirely. Also, another thing that really bugs me, oh wait, what the hell, I swear I didn't even try to do that. But anyways, another thing that absolutely drives me crazy is the audio mixing and syncing, or maybe it's the voice acting, I don't really know what it is. But I'll show you a few clips and you tell me if you notice just how bad the audio sounds in these clips. Take a look.
We'll see what we can do for you.
The bike that your men stole, that your men parted out.
Salvage, Deke. Salvage.
All right. I'll try to keep that in mind.
By the way, nice hat.
What?
No, this one.
Don't you ever
Now,
touch
hold on. Leon wore a hat like this, didn't he?
Cope, I swear to God.
Don't. You want to do business in my camp? You start doing some runs for me.
Cope. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm here anyway. What do you got?
Now that's more like it. A group of drifters has been harassing my supply runs. They've moved into the radio tower west of O'Leary Mountain. Isn't that your backyard?
No, it's not, but I'll take care of them.
I thought you might.
Help! Help!
Need this
I
more
need
than
help!
you.
Over here! I'm here! Help me! Help! Please!
You're gonna be okay. Hey, it's not safe out here in the shit. I know where there's a camp that...
Where? Where? I'll go! I'll go!
Peaceful Lake. Mark Copeland. It's safe there.
Thank you so much! I thought I was gonna die in there!
Name's Deacon. They know who I am.
Now just keep running, stay off the road.
Bro, that shit just sounds so ass to me. First off, Deacon seems to fly off the handle immediately in the first clip. Then, just like that, he's back to normal. But he's doing this weird like mumbling thing, which also indicates that something's still messed up in the syncing. And then the survivor clip is just every survivor like rescue clip in the entire game. I honestly think the voice acting could be replaced with a voiceover of just like some random person, and you wouldn't be able to tell because that's just how terrible the audio quality is. This being compounded with the non-existent like facial expressions and animations like 95% of the time in the entire game, and it just makes for a horrible experience audio wise, and it just like pulls you out of that immersion. Personally, I don't feel the need to wear headphones in this game like I do with every other game and have that 3D audio or that like specialized audio, because it's just not worth it. It's awful, and you're better off just having the regular default TV setting. But back to another thing I love is the random timed events in the open world. I really like these, and I hope they carry forward in a possible sequel. I don't think there's very many people out there who share this sentiment with me. As a matter of fact, most reviewers I watched said that they find the sniper ambushes and survivor rescue and the other random encounters you run into to be tedious and formulaic, but I couldn't disagree with this more. I like how in Days Gone, there's no sense of security when you're out in the shit, as they say. Even in the NRE, or not NRE, is that what it's called? The Nero checkpoints, even there, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you take out all the horns or whatever before you power up the generator, even then, you're still liable to get swarmed by zombies. And it's just like, there's no place you can go other than, like, camp checkpoints that makes you really feel safe, and I really like that feeling in the open world. And the unpredictable nature of these encounters adds so much intensity to each playthrough for me. However, I should mention this, I played all zombies games on hard or its highest difficulty, just because I feel like I get the most out of that experience and I'm most immersed at that point. For some players who like to play the game on the default difficulty or on normal, and they constantly run into these ambushes or wolf traps or whatever it may be, I can see why that may annoy them, but to that, I have just one thing to say to you: just get good. And last, but definitely not least, I have a few more noted down here, but I shrunk it down to the main reasons why I love Days Gone. I'll quickly go over them, I guess the extras actually. Story, the soundtrack, oh my god, the soundtrack is so good. But you know, I'm not going to get into that. Oh, and also some more things I didn't like the enemy variety I have noted down being non-existent, and the god-awful, terrible hit registration. I absolutely hate that, so that would take like a separate video in its own right. But enough stalling. The thing that I probably love the most about Days Gone, and is what really sets it apart from other open world zombies games, I'm sure is no surprise to you, is the Hordes. This, what would you call it, a feature or a system? I think it's a system, but this system alone is reason enough to play the game. The Hordes, especially like the Sawmill Horde, I just remember seeing them for the first time and being an absolute terror and awe at the same time. When I would look out at them on a cliff or somewhere up high and see like hundreds of zombies, it felt like, because there was just so many of them. After doing certain hordes like the stadium one late in the game as well, and the Sawmill Horde, there's this adrenaline rush you only get when playing Souls games and defeating the hardest bosses in that game. And for a zombies game to do that in a category that's just mostly dumb, fun, archaic shooting, the fact that you have to plan out your route and perfectly manage your equipment and resource placement is unlike anything I've ever seen. But also the amount of hordes for a game back in 2019 from a studio not many people knew of, at least on the broader public, was really damn impressive to me. All I want is more hordes in Days Gone 2. That's it. Like, just increase it by double the amount of hordes of this game and keep the same intensity and variety of the hordes. That's all I want to see change from this almost perfect system in my eyes. Alright, we're done. Damn, I didn't even mean to ramble on that long. But honestly, I could just talk about Days Gone all day. It's the same with like Baldur's Gate 3 games, like The Witcher 3 as well. For me, I can and will find literally any logical or illogical excuse to bring up those games into every conversation. And I wanted to do it for Days Gone for so long, but I couldn't really find the right timing. And also just putting my words into video format has always been difficult for me, but I'm glad I could express my love for this game finally, and just hope against hope that one day Sony will pull their heads out of their asses and get to work on a Days Gone 2, or not get to work, just like greenlight a Days Gone 2. But these are the same people who refuse to even do a Bloodborne remake, which is still mind-boggling to me to this day. So it really just is the smallest glimmer of hope at this point. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video and you have other likes or dislikes about Days Gone you'd like to share that I didn't bring up, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I read every single comment, and I'm always curious to see who this video finds as well. But anyways, that's it. I'll see you next time.